Hello and welcome to the first in a series of videos where we're going to be previewing some of the features in the new 2023 version of the AOI Hub reporting template. We've added a lot of new features, functionality and general improvements to the template this year, and in this first video I'm going to be showing you some of those general improvements. Lots of small features and improvements that add up together to quite a big overall improvement to the usability of the template. Starting on the config worksheet, the first thing to note is that we've replaced some of the old style command buttons from the toolbar with some new round buttons. The reason for this is these buttons are generally more responsive, so they just work better. We've still got all of the same functions there: import data, validate, create reports, add financial institution, delete financial institution and go to accounts data, recycle the template, options and help. If I click on the AOI Hub logo to display the about information, we've updated this screen and I want to show you some general features that we've applied across all of these style of screens that pop up. We've added screen tips to each button to show you information about what that button's doing, and we've made the colour green so that they're clearer, whereas previously they were grey and blended in maybe a little bit into the background. Hopefully these are clearer in terms of that they are buttons that you can click on. Also, something to note is wherever you see a date, and this applies across the template, this is now in the format with the day, month as the word and the year. The reason for this is we have users in different countries, some in regions where the convention with dates is to write day, month, and some users in regions where the convention is to write month, day. And so in putting all of our dates in this format, we are looking to avoid the confusion of whether it means day, month or month, day. If you're familiar with the template from previous versions, this will look quite familiar. You see we've got all of the fields that we've had before. What we've done here behind the scenes was we've rewritten a lot of the code so it works much more quickly and more responsive. For example, if I were to change the submitting jurisdiction, everything updates almost instantaneously, whereas previously there might have been a slight delay. Everything on this screen is now updating straight away. And also, you might have noticed that some warning triangles have appeared. Whenever we make a change on this screen, we rerun all of the validation checks and refresh those warning triangles as required. So in this case, I've changed to a different jurisdiction and there are some rules that apply, and therefore the validations notice that there's something that needs correcting. If I click on one of these FIs, I can see on here it's an FI number that's required. Note on this FI screen the same general enhancements that I mentioned before on the About AOI version, the tooltips, the updated clarity on the buttons. What I'm now going to move on to is the accounts data. If I select a particular FI and click on this arrow to go to accounts data, I'm now going to see all of the accounts for that particular FI. In this version of the template, all of the accounts for all of the FIs are on a single accounts data worksheet. So if you have more than one FI in the file, all of the accounts for all of the FIs are on the sheet, and the way that you distinguish which FI they belong to is in this FI number column. So where I had 3 FIs in order 1, 2, 3 on the config sheet, you would put in here the number 1, 2 or 3 to denote which FI the accounts relate to. Notice on the toolbar here on the accounts sheet, we now have a new counter showing you the number of accounts that are displayed on the screen. So at the moment, based on this filter, the fact I'm looking at the Diamond Investment Fund, I've got 46 accounts. If I now change this filter to show all financial institutions, this is now updated to 93. And we can also apply the reportable accounts filter, which again we've simplified in this version, so FATCA CRS not reportable or all accounts, and I can see the number of FATCA reportable, just 3, CRS reportable I could look at, 53, and I could apply the FI filter as well to look at that. So if we reset this back to everything. If you're familiar with the template, you'll be aware that there's 3 ways that you can enter data on here for accounts. You can use in the spreadsheet mode to enter data on screen, as you can see here. You can enter data for one account at a time in the account details form, and you can import accounts data from another spreadsheet. We've made improvements to all 3 of those. I'll start with the actual spreadsheet input. We have improved the ability to add and delete rows on here. You can now insert and delete multiple rows. If I select a range of rows and click on this plus button, I can insert, in this case, 9 rows. And similarly, if I select all of those, I can delete, and I can delete 9 rows. Previously you couldn't delete multiple rows, you couldn't insert multiple, so that's improved that and simplified the process. If I go across to the right hand side here to get to my address details, the country ISO code needs to be a valid code in uppercase 2-letter format. Previously, if you'd entered in lowercase, you would have had a validation check that you would have then needed to correct. What we now do is we automatically turn that into uppercase to avoid that extra validation check that you've got to deal with. Moving on now to the second method of data entry. If I look at the accounts details screen for a particular account by clicking on this pencil icon, in the financial information screen we've made the validations on the amounts more robust so that it's more difficult to enter something invalid. So for example, if I put something like this that was not valid, it would reset itself to 0. We've also added some shortcuts. If you put a number followed by M, it automatically gives you a round number of millions, and if I put a number followed by K, that round thousands. So I put 20k, it gave me 20,000. On the tax information tab, we've added a CRS reportable indicator. So in this case, Germany is a CRS reportable jurisdiction, so it's given me a tick to show that. So if you weren't sure if a jurisdiction that your account holder was resident in was reportable, you can see that at a glance. For example, if I were to change this to a jurisdiction that's not within CRS, you wouldn't see the indicator there. And that works on all of these inputs here. We've got up to 3. If you had an individual organisation that was dual resident or even resident in up to 3 jurisdictions, you'd see these ticks on those. Finally, looking at the accounts data import, if I click on the import button, I can now select that all of the accounts relate to a particular financial institution. So if you're importing accounts from a spreadsheet and they all relate to a particular FI, then you can select that up front and it will ensure that they get the right number assigned to them when it's imported. Select which row in the data contains the headings, where the data starts, and click on Import. I've got some columns that don't match, but I'm happy that they're not required, so I'll click on Continue. We've now added a final step to prompt me if I would like to run validation checks, and that's worth doing at the point of importing, because it checks that the data is valid. It also ensures you get all the row referencing and the filters will all work correctly. And what I can see now, if I go to the top of the screen and select the Sapphire Investment Fund, I've got the filtering, which is just showing me I've got 24 accounts that were imported. I can see on here which ones are FATCA CRS reportable. In actual fact, they're all CRS reportable. That concludes this video. We hope that you found it useful. This new version of the template is going to be available to download from the website from the end of February. If you have any questions in the meantime, please get in touch with us.